Okay.
Alrighty, so we're locked in. We now have a beautiful villa, and now we're recording the first episode of, what do you want to call it, Godcast?
Probably won't be the first episode.
Not the first
I
episode?
think the first episode will be me giving a bit of a, who I am in the story and the purpose of the podcast itself.
You want to say that now?
Now?
Sure. So here you are. I'm here in Godcast, and right now we have my man Jake here.
So many more things I need to explain. But the name of the podcast, I think, is going to be just called Meaning and Purpose. I think that's what I want to go for, meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
And as much as it's directed at God, it's also just directed at understanding how to bring upon a true meaning and purpose in your life.
Yeah.
And just telling the way that that's happened for me, and then interviewing other people and how that's happened for them.
Yeah.
I guess. But yeah.
So it's called Meaning and Purpose.
Meaning and purpose.
Correction, it's not called Godcast anymore. It's called Meaning and Purpose.
Yeah. I had to think about that one for a second too, because I was like...
Why Meaning and Purpose?
I think it's just because God, like as much as I'm a Christian and I'm a believer of the faith, it's all about God, of course, and that's the purpose for us, and I can go into detail about that, but meaning and purpose is what drives us, and what drives us is probably the most important thing when it comes to our lives, if we're talking about just us.
Mm-hmm.
And then also it is that meaning and purpose that also drives us to go beyond ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's like the meaning and purpose is for me, it's all about God. And in that way, but for so many other people, it can be just about family. And of course I do believe that if God is your meaning and purpose, everything else becomes so much more full of life and breath.
Yeah.
And it goes so much further. So saying that God's purposes can go so much bigger and so much further than just your family. You can serve your family and then also to serve God, which can be to serve the world.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
And you're coming from a background where obviously you weren't Christian before.
Yeah.
Do you want to maybe just tell the peeps there how you came into that faith and how it all started?
I mean, I didn't grow up in a Christian home. My dad is a believer, but not as strong in the faith. He's not Catholic or anything like this. He's got his own relationship with God, if you would say that.
Yep.
And my mum just didn't believe in any of it. Mm-hmm. She had a whole own thing going on. And then all the way up until, what have I been, 23? I would have been 21. Me and my now wife got married 2 weeks ago, since this podcast starting. We met each other. And
I was the best man, by the way.
Yeah, he was the best man. And she was full Christian, and so I was conflicted with that and battled with that. We both kind of fell in love really quickly, second date fell in love. We didn't understand it all. And then, 2 years.
I actually remember how you guys met too. It was when we were both doing the shadow work thing with Lachlan. And I remember you said you kind of broke down your session with Lachlan, and it was literally the day after that you met Bailey, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or was it?
It was literally 2 days. So I did a personal development, which brought me down this all these traumas and all these things that were wrong. And then literally 2 days after that, I had this whole love and affection. I wasn't allowing love and affection into my life, and therefore I was cutting off every contact with any girl that would ever come to me,
right.
Love-wise, and so I never built a real relationship. And there's a backstory to that.
How do you think it got into that?
It's my mum.
Yeah.
So my mum, she was diagnosed with a brain tumor when I was born, and then in and out of hospital, sick all my life. Essentially, I knew she was going to die. Mm-hmm. And so I was slightly detached from her in the way that I knew that love was going to pass. It was going to go on. Yeah. So I was detached from not accepting that to some degree. And also she was so sick when I was younger for so long, she didn't give love and affection because she was on the table almost dying sometimes.
Yeah.
So it was, that was pretty much kind of a thing. And then I realized all that, and then I'm, he took me through that. Then I met Bailey. Bailey was Christian.
Yeah.
And then I was confronted with Christianity and that side of life. And I was as agnostic as you could get / atheist. I didn't think God exists. I didn't think that was possible. Even if it was, how could we know? All these questions. I questioned everything. It took me about 1 year and 3 months of literally every day asking questions and listening to podcasts, Jordan Peterson, Alex O'Connor's, like atheists, agnostics, debates, left, right, and center every week, every day for like a year. Then, going down this whole pathway, and eventually I just every rabbit hole I went down, an answer popped up that made sense. And a lot of crazy, weird shit happened to me that I can't explain.
Yeah.
Spiritually speaking, that goes beyond comprehension of just logical thoughts. So then eventually I was confronted with her because she showed me a whole nother side to it that, being an outsider, I was just like, Christianity's dumb, like, great, like there's all these good things I do agree with, but there's so much I don't agree with. And then it took me a long time to understand and digest those truths.
Yeah.
And so here we are.
And what do you think was like the first thing that sort of confronted you about like just Christianity as not even a religion but as a faith?
Yeah, what confronted me?
As in like, so you had your old self, right?
Yep.
Which was very much like, agnostic.
Yep.
Very much like dealing with the self.
Yeah.
As in like
subjective.
Yeah, like self-development, wanting to, have enough money, like 10K a month to, basically have freedom for your own life.
Yeah,
Like at what point like did it sort of like conflict with each other, you know what I mean? Like when you introduced to Christianity.
I guess I would say when it started to conflict was when I understood what Christ actually taught. And it was that self-denial. Like, actually, there was a book that my spiritual mother gave me, and she helped me through understanding so much about all this. And again, that took a whole year.
Was this The Spiritual Man?
Yeah.
I was actually going to ask you about like that book as well.
That book is intense as shit.
Yeah.
It is so intense.
I literally had my Kindle here, and I was like, I need to actually digest like Jake's, like what did Jake say about this book?
I dare you right now, if you're an atheist and agnostic, and you want some real confrontation, something to really wrestle with, read The Spiritual Man, and everything you believe and understand will just be riddled. You'll just be so confronted with everything because... In
a nutshell, what do you sort of think it sort of delved into? Yeah. What do you sort of take apart?
Right? I only read the first half to 3/4 of it because... Only that? Because it got... I still am digesting the first, like, half of that. Like, it's that serious.
To this day.
Yeah. Like, I'll go back and read the rest of it, but right now I'm still not wrestling, but, like, actually applying applicably everything that it taught. Okay. So the first thing, like the biggest thing, if I can lay it down, this is what it taught. There's 3 parts to us: spirit, soul, and body. And this is kind of how even Christ even talks about this. And the guy that wrote this is technically Christian, or was an atheist turned Christian, I believe. Yeah. Don't quote me on that. But he taught that God, as you're born, you have your body. God breathes the spirit into you, creating the soul. Yeah. So the soul, which is our personality, it's what makes us an individual, is brought upon through the spirit entering the body. And so the spirit, we all have our individual spirits which can connect to God, or can technically connect to demons. So you're connecting to something, because I believe just overlaps. I can believe there's a good and evil. I believe there's good and evil, there's wrong and right in the world. And so I believe there's a spiritual experience, so therefore there's spiritual aspects of this life that aren't just materially based, and therefore there's I would say that there's an evil and a good within that spiritual realm, because I believe the spiritual realm reflects, or the physical realm reflects the spiritual one. That's what I believe. So there's a war on earth right now between good and evil. I believe there's a war in the spiritual realm between good and evil. Angels versus demons, God versus Satan. So with all that, I went deep in a rabbit hole there for a sec. But with all that, I've already forgot what I was.
So you're talking about you're introducing the body, soul, and spirit.
Yeah, and so essentially the idea is to deny the body being self, and to deny the soul, which is also self.
And to people here who are not necessarily like into spirituality or Christianity or whatever that is, what does it mean to deny self, and why should you deny self?
So the whole idea of what this book and Christ teaches is that the body being really simply put, the body being what is lowest. So if you are acting off your urges, off the instant gratifications, the dopamine hits we know them to be, the short instant gratifications, that's everything of a primal kind of understanding of the way to live, and which is very survival based.
Right.
So that's all those kind of terms we use to what I just put in as body, or what they say is the body or self. It's all these things that are like primal instincts or instant now. So instant gratification being, just looking for that next dopamine hit in a video game or porn or, lust and power and greed. Like or social media, constantly looking for dopamine. That is the lowest way you can live.
Yeah.
So people scrolling on phones, lowest way to experience life is to scroll on a phone. Lowest way to experience life is just jerking off in your room, in the dark. Like, the lowest way to experience life is just having sugar and taking drugs. And so these are all these instant gratification things. And they can even go into everything else, trying to just get money really quickly, quick, everyone just wants things quick.
Yeah.
So that's that whole part of instant primal survival state body, going off what your body wants.
Yeah. Then
you go to soul, which is like this raised consciousness of like, okay, it's not about just what my body wants or needs. So it's not just about food or water or shelter. It's about more than just me and my body. And it's like, okay, what else is there? And that's where the soul comes into part. But I believe that we're also supposed to deny the soul, because the soul is the personality of the reflection of your ego and self.
Sure. And
so then you deny that, you get to spirit.
Why would someone do that?
Yeah. So the whole thing about that is that I believe, from what I've come to understand and what Christ teaches and what God teaches, is that self is the lowest form of consciousness and understanding of how to live life.
Yeah.
And it's the least fulfilling. To serve others is more fulfilling than to serve yourself. There's a greater purpose to that. And a lot of people don't know how to point why. I believe it's because they are also a child of God. They are made in the image of God. They are special. Everyone is made special, and because God created them, and therefore you have value. You're not just a random person. Like, your value isn't based off what you do and who you are as a person.
Yeah.
But the fact that you are a person, and you also have the potential to do amazing things. That is where your value should like, when I view someone, should truly lie. It's not specifically in what you do, but who you can become, more than who you are right in this second.
Yeah.
And that if we all saw each other, like, think about this, if you just take this for a second, if you saw everyone not just as a physical appearance or specifically in what they do right now, but you saw the potential in who they are, and that they are inherently valuable as people, all of us, we would have a totally different perspective on everything. On looking at, like, the way we look at people and how we treat people that way.
I have these interesting conversations with my sister at times, because if you guys don't know, I recently I would say, like, I am not really Christian, but, like, I'd say I am aligned with Christ. I would say. I'm still sort of wrestling with the idea. But I had this interesting conversation with my sister where she doesn't actually believe a spirit or a soul exists. It's almost just like your placebo, it's the neuroplasticity in your mind. And that creates the idea of your identity, because it's always flexible. And I never really understood that. So if you want to maybe just explain,
try and break that down.
If you want to try and break that down, maybe in a spiritual sense.
Yeah.
Like, why do you think that's false, and why do you think?
Look, what I would be trying to explain there. A lot of people have a lot of different answers for, and I'm just one dude, one very simple man sitting here in the middle of Byron Bay right now. So I'll give my best understanding of what helped me create this belief or understand this a little bit.
Yeah.
It's the idea that this isn't just a physical reality. That's essentially what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's that there's a spiritual thing, whatever you want to call it, consciousness, reality, spirituality, something that we can't see physically that is interacting with our reality of physical matter. So it's like our reality isn't just physical matter. It's not just this body and this table. There's something else going on as well. And so that's the simple fundamental layout of that. And that believing in that would mean that there's spiritual beings of sorts. And we call those angels and demons, right? That's how it's described. Because there's good and evil. But what I would say is that we have these things, like we have certain parts of our reality that we can't explain through right now at this point, and I don't think we'll ever truly be able to understand. And again, I'm no scientist, but this is just from what I've understand from leading philosophers and scientists, like things like consciousness.
Yeah.
The idea of...
Like, what is consciousness?
What is consciousness? Yeah, like it's apparent to, like, the mind or consciousness is affected by the physical neuroplasticity that creates our consciousness. But it's not contained to us. It's this weird thing. The reason being is that we have these dreams and we go into these like whole new realities and spaces that feel totally real, that is created when we're asleep and when we're like not supposed to be awake. Yet we have these dreams and like DMT's released and all these kind of things that happen that create a spiritual experience. You know, people that have had ayahuasca, I mean, right now we live in a day and age where like atheism was starting to really like peak, but now most people are honestly like agnostics because they're like, there's something else going on. People are waking up like there's just some weird shit going on, and it can't be just this physical reality that's actually making all of this happen, and all like it's only physical reality reacting on physical matter. Like there's something else. So I mean, I've had times where you for instance, where your dad saw you float off the ground. Like things like that, like some weird shit. Like you may have had an instance in your life where you can't explain it through physical understanding, like touch this makes a sound.
That story is so fascinating because like it was a story, like obviously when you're a kid you can't remember shit, right? And then my dad happens to also see basically me fly from a bunk bed and kind of float down down and to start crawling. And even though I didn't see it, I believe what my dad says. My dad never lies. And
he is a man of honor.
Yeah, and even when my dad had this experience of like, when my brother nearly died. The whole idea behind that, I think, was like he basically got hit by like I think malaria or some type of mosquito, and then he was basically bedridden for like 2 weeks or something. And like, you know, breathing by a machine, like they were going to turn the machine off and everything like that. And then my dad had this like really strong conviction to actually fly over to Bali that day, and flew over the day. There was no tickets to actually go to Bali, and then one guy actually pulled out last minute to actually, and that's another coincidence, goes onto the flight, and as soon as he lands in the Bali, everything is gold. Like as in like the walls are gold. And you see like everything is so vivid.
It's crazy. You just had this.
And essentially what happened, he goes into the hospital room, touches my brother just like that, and he shocks him like electric shock.
Wow.
And my brother just starts breathing by himself again. And even to that day, it's like, I believe what my dad says, you know, he would never lie to me. And I'm like, he can't explain that.
So this is the thing too, like you're just some random Balinese kid in the middle of Palm Beach, Australia, and that's just one story. Like, and there is countless like that. Now, people can just disregard that.
Yeah.
And, you know, fair enough. So did I at one point.
People can also put on a show with that too.
Yeah, people can put on a show. You might think that, you know, oh, this happened and this was the reason. And, like, and you can create all these, you know, hypotheticals. But the case really is that, like, miracles happen. And we can, and the word coincidence I find so interesting. Just the word. People are like, oh, that's just a coincidence. And I mean, is it? You know, you could so easily just bat it off and say it was a coincidence. Because I think most people don't have anything to attribute the coincidence to, so it just becomes coincidence.
It's like too hard to digest that you can't comprehend it, so it's just called a coincidence in a way.
And coincidence is really just a, like, improbable probability.
Yeah.
It's just a, like, it's a 1 in a million chance, like 1 in tens of trillions, like that could never happen. But the whole idea of the reason we have coincidences is that everything is bound to happen eventually because time is infinite and has, you know, like this whole idea, like eventually that would have happened.
My friend had the argument, we both know a mutual friend.
Yeah.
But he had that same argument, just saying like, the universe is basically an infinite. It just happened in an infinite number of times. And then something was bound to happen. And then your point of view, it's almost like everything is written in a sense. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, and this is the fundamental issue. This is why I've got this podcast as purpose and meaning, because, like, I'll put it really straightforward. Either God exists and something created this on purpose for a meaning and for a purpose. Like, he had a meaning for it and he had a purpose for it. And then also, foremost, we were created for purpose, for a meaning and for a purpose. Or all of this is all just an explosion of possible random chance, and there is no meaning and purpose, because you can't derive meaning and purpose from random. That doesn't happen. You don't like, if we are just here and we die and the purpose really was just to live and to experience, and therefore life doesn't go beyond self. It stops there. It really does. And you die and then it stops there again. Like, then the earth was just going to explode in a star one day in the future, and then there's no purpose, then all of it's random. And so therefore, you can't draw meaning and purpose from an atheist understanding of reality. And agnostics dance on that as well. They still can't, because they don't know. They don't know where the meaning and purpose draws from anything. And I do believe in the idea of having an open mind, even as a Christian, even if you do have this, like, okay, cool, God created me for this purpose. I still believe in the understanding of, like, there may be some specific individual parts that you need to be open and receive revelations and such. But, like, this is what we're talking about, is, like, that's why I believe self stops there. And that's why I think it's so important. Like, what we'll bring it back to is the body, soul, and spirit. Is the idea we want to escape body and soul to reach spirit, because that is the highest form of receiving your purpose. I don't believe you can create your purpose. Your purpose was already, like, your purpose is already there. You can't create your purpose. You can step into your purpose. So a lot of people understand that stepping into, but I don't believe you personally on your own can step and find your own purpose and fully live it out. I believe you could be like, step into, like, cool, like, I innately, like, am so good at this, and so, like, and I love it, and it just, I can do it on, and so it just lights a flame in me, a passion, and I believe you can find a purpose in that, and that could be your purpose, but you won't fully live it out because you're trying to find your layout of what that passion or creative use is for. But I believe only God has that for you, because God created you, because God created the universe. And so if he's the creator, he's the purpose giver.
Right. So my personality at the moment, right, it wouldn't actually be like my own doing. It would almost be like God created my own soul. Is that your sort of standpoint?
Yeah, I believe.
You sort of explain like that, and he sent me down here into this body.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you are born of. So I believe, like, as the Bible says, we are all born in the image of God, and we all have, like, what is known as that spark of divinity, which is all a part of God. We are all made in the image. We all have a part of God in us. And we are, when you think about it in this idea, this might help. When a woman and a man come together for marriage, they unite as one flesh. And they create this masculine and feminine combination of complementing each other. And that complementation resembles Christ and resembles God. As our own, on our own, we are part of God, parts, but not a completion. We can't be a completion of resembling God, and God being that which is like perfect, which is good, which has purpose. God is purpose. God is all of it, almost. But we are part. So you are part of that. You may have a part of God in your soul and your personality. Like what I was saying before, we want to see that in people. We want to strive to see the part that God has given them, that we want to ignite that light inside of them that is the part made in the image of God. We want to see that and bring that to life. And we all have that small part down in us, and a lot of us have suppressed that, which, again, that's part of your purpose. And so I believe that part of your personality would be that, and parts of your personality aren't. And this is the whole denying of self.
So denying of self is also... That's interesting. So denying of self is also the following of your purpose. It's interesting. This is
an interesting idea, actually. The
sounds kind of like contradictory, but it's also not at the same time, isn't it? Or
denying yourself is to actually... I mean, it's the idea of like, it's to kill yourself. It's to be buried. So the whole idea was Christ died for 3 days, was dead, came back alive, and then was resurrected into the spirit. So his body died, his soul came back into consciousness, and then he was raised to heaven.
And that's a whole idea, like symbolic thing with like baptism.
Baptism, going under the water, coming back as dying to yourself. That's the whole idea of dying to self, coming back born in the spirit. And so this is that whole idea.
That was explained to me by Noah. Like when I got baptized with you a few weeks ago. He like literally said, so this is the whole idea of like, you know, being buried.
Idea.
Being like
and it's symbolic. And to an extent, like if we really do believe that the Holy Spirit and God is here among us as well, and he's a personal God, then like we are born of the Spirit again. The Spirit comes into us and renews our mind, renews our heart, takes old wants and desires of porn and lust and drugs or whatever this, and turns it into good things. Like turns that desire for a desire to love people and all this kind of stuff, right? But that's part of denying and killing self, which is killing the parts of you that sin, which kills the parts of you that turn you away from what you were originally made for, which can be parts of your personality. We
had this conversation when we were at the beach, right? Whether you have to replace something. It was like for an addiction, for example, like a porn addiction, you replace it with something else, like something opposite. Is it true to say that you're killing yourself, or is it true to say that you're sort of replacing yourself in a way?
You could say that I believe that you turn I think there's a two-part in that. I feel like you can feel like both. I feel like there's a killing to your sin. Like we want to flee our sin. It specifically says in the Bible, we want to flee the issues that we have in our life, meaning that if you watch porn every night, you want to flee away from doing that. You want to abstain from doing evil or doing the wrong thing and turn to what you were originally purposed for. You weren't made if you don't have God, then it doesn't matter. But if you have God, it does matter in that if you're watching porn, you're willingly doing that, you're lowering yourself to your bodily fleshes and denying Christ. You need to do the opposite. You got to deny God is to deny your highest given purpose that he has for you. And then you're like, okay, no, my purpose right now is to jack off to some porn or to smoke this cocaine. Like literally everything you say and do becomes part in what you're doing in your life, which is your purpose. So like when I'm playing video games, my purpose right now is to play video games, which is really sad, right? Like that's so low. Meaning and purpose. And so to deny yourself is to deny all of which is keeping you away from your true purpose. And I believe God can only give you that true purpose. I believe you can find it, but you can't utilize it fully.
It's a tricky it's a tricky thing to say as well. Like if I'm thinking about honestly, because you have like people, let's say, for example, who are on their games, actually make a living of playing their games, right?
Yeah.
But then you still call that living to your lowest purpose as well.
Well,
is it?
This is for me though.
Right.
So like you gotta remember that like video games for me have been a toxic part of my past, and so therefore they doing them now is still kind of, it can be like an evil trap into laziness.
Yeah.
And to not being productive and doing other things I should be doing.
Yeah.
But for some people, I know some people spreading the gospel and utilizing it as a platform to reach people. So people really famous, Ninja, the famous, he's Christian. I'm pretty sure.
Does he preach the Bible in the game lobbies?
He's talked about it. He's talked about it on his channel. But like, I guess this is what I'm saying.
It's like Black Ops Zombies.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus Christ is real.
I mean, this isn't a religion.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like all like, you know, video game is wrong and this is wrong and this is wrong, and like there is some obvious objective wrongs, like doing drugs isn't going to do any good. Having sex with a woman every day isn't going to do any good. It's not really serving a higher purpose, or you know, you could make an idea for it, but if we're talking about, you know, a lot deeper things here in terms of like, again, I'm judging all of this based from what I've understood through the Bible and even through being an atheist agnostic most of my life. Like you've got to release your own understanding and expectations of what you think life is, what you think is best for you, and open yourself to receiving what actually is. Because 99% of us run off, the majority of the time, running off preconceived ideas, pre-experienced circumstances and situations, and we take all that, which is trauma, which is good, which is bad, which is all this stuff, and we apply that lens through our life as we walk forward, and you miss all of it. You miss so much of life with this lens that you're like, life is supposed to be this way. Like, you know, like, I'm supposed to do this for the rest of my life. I'm supposed to do this. It's supposed to happen. Or like, life is just this way. And life is just this because of how your mum and dad experienced life or what they taught you. And it's like, you're getting all of that from people that, or from the majority of society, which live from the body. They live through this continuous searching, instant gratification or power and greed and all these things that are this like, give me kind of like states, and not from this other source. And
that's a whole issue that I had with like sort of self-development as a thing. Yeah. Because it like, I think it's great.
As an section.
I think at every point of like every kid, like person's life, self-development there's a part of has to happen. But it's not the ultimate thing.
No.
It's because, as you said before, it's like you're retreating back into yourself, your own knowledge and your own understandings.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's literally it's called self-development.
Yeah.
So you rely, everything that you understand, and this is really key for people to hear right now as well, is that it's okay if you're in this atheist agnostic understanding of the world and you're just not there, you don't understand quite yet, and this is totally fine, and I don't even blame you, like there's no judgment on that at all, but you gotta understand that self-development and what we're being taught these days is that we need to be independent. Women are supposed to be independent. Men are supposed to do everything on their own and build this, like, and I believe, great, build this stoic, you know, be a stoic, be masculine, step into being a provider and for value and helping people and doing all this stuff. But this is where it gets messed up, because you're literally full reliant on self. And with where I am in my life and what you're starting to like find and experience is we have God being, which is all powerful and all knowing, to helping us understand what we need to understand to live out our purpose, which he created us. So that's the whole thing. And otherwise you really are just in this constant, I'm going to create this expectation. I'm going to create this dartboard of an expectation, and here's the bullseye. I want to make $1 million. I want to find a beautiful wife. I want to travel to here. I want to become this, whatever it is.
And let's just say if someone has all those things, right? Why would they need God in the first place if they have all that?
If they have all that, exactly. And this is even the funny thing where people get everything they could ever imagine and turn to God in it.
Right.
I talked to this one guy. He was like he was a Nitro Circus motorbike rider, and he's like millions of dollars, traveling the world, doing what he loves, beautiful girlfriend. What else could he want? He was still empty.
Interesting.
He was still searching.
Yeah.
This is the whole idea of like physical matter to spiritual life. This even ties more in part into the body, soul, and spirit. Mm-hmm. That if you're only seeking to fulfill yourself and create meaning and purpose, or fulfill your life purpose from soul and body, you're never going to. Because you're searching and fulfilling yourself through money, power, lust, all this kind of stuff in a physical sense. Physical things will be here now and will pass on. Right. They will never truly fulfill you. Spiritual, what'd you say? Spiritual food is what will actually end up fulfilling you deeper and forever fulfilling you.
Yeah.
So Christ says, "I'm the bread of life."
Yeah.
No one that, once you come and like eat of me / partake in me will be filled.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It means,
to people who aren't really versed in the Bible, as we are, what is like bread of life? If you eat me, then you will never be hungry.
It's like, it's
what does that actually mean? Yeah.
It's symbolic in the idea that, don't hunger for the world. Meaning, social media, money, fame and power. Don't hunger for the world, for it will lead you down astray into a path of always needing more.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
Do a camera check.
Sorry, intermission, guys. 1 second. You know what? I can keep speaking. It will lead you down essentially feeling empty, because it will never be enough. You'll want $1 million, and you want $10 million, and you want this, and you want that, and it's this never-ending progress. And I think to some extent that is part in which, what we are here to do, which is to constantly grow and learn. We are growing beings. We want to constantly grow. Being in a state of growth is fulfilling. Not growing is death. But it's a lie that we are here to just make money, that we are here to just be pleasured, that we are here just to seek, more power for us and more fulfillment just for us. And that when we deny ourselves, all of a sudden, all of our expectations and desires and wants don't come from us anymore. They are given to us by God. And just to say that it's not just us making this up. When we just receive revelation from God, we can see this in the Bible, and it actually is backed up.
I'm back.
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah.
Sorry, a bit of intermission there. The camera kind of just died, but we're coming back again. We're good. We are on 37 minutes. Jesus. I think the camera has like a 25-minute limit.
Okay. I'm totally fine for it just to be an audio on a podcast and Spotify.
Sweet.
That works too.
Cool.
Yeah. No, so the bread of life, and essentially what the basic idea is that when we eat from him, when we hunger for his understanding and truth, not the world's and society's truth, or my friend or my parents' truth, then we are actually filled. And I experienced this myself, and you have too. When you actually go in and actually read what Jesus actually said, not just this idea of Jesus love, Jesus this, Jesus all this stuff. Actually go read what he said. You'll be stunned and left speechless in some of what he said, and also confused. But when you actually start to try and digest it, try and actually digest what he says as the bread of life, you try and digest it. It actually starts to sit with you and starts to actually create good fruits and actually bear you a pathway that leads you towards life. And so, as Christ literally says, I am the truth, the way, and the life. And so, that essentially meaning he is purpose. He is that which is truth. He is meaning. He is reality. That's also another weird conception to understand that God is reality. He is he is identity, which is reality. His identity is reality, which is a really weird concept.
This is something that it's like sort of psychological, right?
Super deep. No one's going to understand this. I barely understand it, but go on.
This is something psychological because this is going to be like kind of like thrown in the deep end type of podcast. It's like
first episode. It's not supposed to be this, but here we are.
Just like you know that me and Jake have known each other for like a good say 7 years.
Yeah, almost 10, bro.
10 years. Holy shit, a decade.
Getting close. Yeah.
And we've had so many like deep chats. So we're at this point now where it's like no more bullshit, no more fluff. It's like what's up with life? You know, it's like it's so
what is it?
So
what's going on?
So just a bit of context there. So what I was gonna say is the idea that God, you can't understand God, right?
Yeah.
So the idea God's undescribable to our mind. We can't comprehend. We can't understand him.
Yeah.
Doesn't that sort of appeal to the idea that how we get this term monkey mind?
Yep.
Where you're constantly learning something, right?
Yeah.
If God were easy to understand, then we would obviously want something more than God, wouldn't we? So the idea that God is mysterious.
That's cool. Yeah.
Is always like, it's almost like, you're trying to understand like, God's will. Am I doing this right by God? But you can't understand God. And so that desire of like a monkey mind, trying to grab something and trying to learn something, is that the reason why, kind of like why you're sort of, transversed into God? Because you can't understand him, but you want to understand him.
There's a mystery and so there's a lot of you come to understand so much more about the truths and I like to find that truths bring upon beauty and life and all this kind of stuff. But when trying to understand God, you're getting as much as God can give you to like you can comprehend and take on, that can actually be applied and digested. So he'll give you as much as you are wanting to digest, because I think if we actually understood what he understood, I think we'd just explode and die. It'd just be too much for us to
our minds would collapse in that.
It'd be like I don't know, like we're not meant to understand and comprehend everything. And I think for a purpose, I think it also allows for us to really experience life. Because I think we talked about this the other day, which is that God can't experience what we experience. And what we experience in our life is actually ridiculously valuable and actually really unique.
It's like the idea that your life is so valuable. God wants it. Also, Satan wants it. That's the idea of like selling your soul. And that's the idea of like give your life over. Both these entities, good and bad, want your life.
Well, God wants our life. Yeah, he wants us to give his life, but he also gets to experience through us to some extent as well, I believe. That's part of the creation, that he gets to experience himself / experience life. Because if there was just nothingness, if he was just God on his own, he doesn't need anything or anyone. It's kind of like, well, what is reality then? It's just self. It's just God. But by creating us, it expands like the idea of reality having evil, good, beauty, destruction, randomness, chaos out of order. It actually creates the fundamental framework to actually having reality. Reality cannot be anything else other than contrast. Because if this was just all perfection, it was just like perfect heaven. It was just everything was perfect all the time. You wouldn't even know it was perfect because you got nothing to base that perspective and understanding of. So you've got to experience evil to know good. You've got to experience death to know life, and that's what I believe God created. And the reason reality is what it is, why he created it the way it is. It couldn't be any other way. But I believe that all the evil that came into this earth and that is wrong, that we do, is because of our free will, which allows for us to actually achieve the highest state of love, because we have the choice for love. And I believe love is a choice. And again, this is a whole nother podcast, but love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice.
Yes. I agree with that too.
Bro, I don't understand how people couldn't not agree with that.
Yeah.
You can choose to love someone, even though you may feel you hate them. You can choose to love them and act in a way of love.
Yeah, I can see why they initially would start with it, and it's because the whole like, obviously like Hollywood like Notebook and type of shit were like propelling the idea. It's like love is like that honeymoon thing all the time.
Yeah.
And then we had this discussion like even when you got married, right? Yeah. And when I first heard about you getting married, I was like, what the fuck, shocked. Yeah. But then I see it now, like you're with Bailey, you're growing as well. Yeah. And it's almost like you're reaping a different kind of fruit. Yeah. It's like we had this conversation like even like 5 minutes ago, where it's like the idea of like you're reaping the fruits of, instead of it being like passion, intimacy, the physicality, the sexual animal instinct. Yeah. It's more so reaping the fruits of like loyalty, integrity, trust as well. Yeah. And that creates the best relationships, the long-lasting relationships, the everlasting ones.
And you would appoint all that to more of what we're supposed to be here doing as a purpose, per purpose.
Yeah.
You know, we're not here to last and do all these things like. And it can be really simple, but like if you really grind it down to like we're here to honor each other, to love each other, to do all these things. Like we are.
And you see, and if you apply it to your life as well. Let's just say humanity was one person, right? Yeah. You see, or one body of Christ. Mm-hmm. You see in this way where everything works in that way. It's almost like leading into life. Yeah. You know, like people getting married and having that trust, that time together. They establish like the healthy relationship, right? Yeah. Whereas if it's constantly leading into sin, I always say like sin is like a decay, like something's dying. Yeah. And that's why I sort of think I guess the right thing to do, like righteousness versus sin, it's like life and death.
Yes. Yeah, and just to clarify as well, sin comes from the Greek word meaning to miss the mark, and it's actually something archers used when like doing archery. Like if they shot their arrow and they missed the bullseye, they'd say, "I've sinned." Yeah, and so it's missing really, I would say, missing your purpose. Yeah, it's missing the purpose of what you're here to do, and that's what sin is. Sin isn't this like evil blanket term of like you're a sinner. It's like sinning is just missing the purpose of what we're originally supposed to be doing.
I've known you for 10 years, right? So nearly 10 years. Why is it always with you purpose is a big thing for you? Like for me, it would be more so like obviously like creativity, storytelling, wanting to connect with people in that sort of creative way. Yeah. And like why is it for you like your purpose is like the most biggest thing? Like why do you think that?
I think that's it ends up like I've wrote a whole book, bro. I don't even know if I've told you this. I wrote like a seriously proper book on this, but I will release it soon too. But
Jake's biography, guys.
Yeah,
subscribe to it. Quick plug in. I've got a book I've wrote.
Selling for $5.99 on Amazon. Yeah, maybe not even $5.99. But yeah, like it's the foundation of everything is this one word. Why? Why? Like, if you draw back everything to get to the foundation of everything, you ask why. So, like, why was the universe created? God created it. Why did God create it? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, he created it to love beings. Well, why did he create the beings to love? Like, why? That's the foundation of everything, and why is it is the byproduct of purpose.
Yeah.
Like, so purpose is the byproduct of the why. You ask why, you get your purpose. So I believe why is the foundation of almost like everything.
It's the reason.
Yeah, it's the reason for everything. But our beliefs, our values, our core values, our how we act, what we do, what we say, the way we live, the way we experience, melt it all down by asking why to all of it. Why do I experience this? Why do I do this? Why do I believe this? Why do I say this? Why do I value this? Yeah. You put all that down and you get your purpose. And you do that enough, you get down to your purpose. And then if you do that enough to the building foundational structures of life, you get all the way to God.
Yeah.
And you can elevate the other way to God too.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that you go all the way south of why, you get to God. Yeah. And you go all the way to like, and if you ask why, and you flip that in reverse, you can elevate yourself to God. So either way, you get to the foundation of God, or you get to the elevation towards God.
Elevation towards God.
So as you go...
Even I don't understand it. What does that mean?
As you... I'm literally only realizing this as I'm saying it. This is really cool. But as you ask why, the deeper whys go, and you get towards God. The why, the creation of why does reality exist itself?
Yeah.
God. Okay. Let's say it just is God for this hypothetical. That's the whys going down. But as your whys go down, your purposes get greater.
As our whys go down.
The purposes grow.
Right.
And as they grow, your purposes don't get deeper. Your purposes get elevated towards God. So as you ask why this happens, you get cemented in the foundations of life and what it is. At the same time, that draws you as an elevated growth towards what is the purpose. The purpose doesn't get sunk. The purpose gets elevated. The whys don't increase. The whys get more fundamental. Right. That's very cool. Both lead towards because God is the Alpha Omega, the before, the after, the so he's the start, he's the end.
Sure.
And so he created the universe. He has the highest elevated purpose for it.
Interesting. Huh. I didn't think about it like that. So it's almost like
cool. That's pretty cool. It's not bad.
So you're elevating you're fundamentally cementing your whys in life, and that reaches you to God's true will.
Yeah, it's the same idea of like NLP or self-development of like asking deeper whys to come to deeper truths, and in that your consciousness arises, right?
So you're also saying this as well, that it's because we can't really understand that we can't understand God, right, with our monkey mind.
Yeah.
So that's constantly asking yourself like why all the time.
Yeah. That's
never going to stop.
Yeah. I mean, we're supposed to be childlike in our nature, right? So it's that whole like, as much as we are men of God, or women of God, we are also children of God, and so we are supposed to walk as this. We walk with this knowing that we live for a purpose given by God to be able to bring life and help others and so many other things, right? So many purposes and all this kind of stuff for what we're supposed to do. And it's all in the Bible, and we also get divinely given that through your experience and years of being with God.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that, oh man, this conversation's been too deep. We talked like 2 hours before this as well. I lost my point there. We went cemented and we went elevated. Yeah. And you asked what?
Yeah.
What'd you ask? It was...
we never stopped knowing why.
Yeah, we never stopped asking why.
Yeah.
And so, we're supposed to be like, cool, like we ask why in order to receive revelation and to actually find truth. But then eventually that truth gets cemented. Like eventually you've got to find it. It's not like you can just consistently change your beliefs and truths all the time. Otherwise, nothing really like you're just in this ever like circle of like changing everything all the time.
I don't mean to diss you, but you kind of had that earlier. When I first
100%.
You're always
That's what I'm saying. That's an issue.
Yeah.
That was an issue. That was a circle I was in. I was like, oh, this is the new truth. This is the new truth. This is the new truth. This is the new truth.
Yeah.
But then when you actually find it, it actually sticks. It sticks. Like Christ says, love your neighbor as thyself. That is an awesome objective understanding of life to live by.
Of course.
Treat your enemies, pray for your enemies and be kind to others no matter how they treat you. Yeah. That's as hard as it is to do, that's such an objective, like lying truth, like that stays there now. No matter what. And so and then there's more to that, right? There's more about, what he says that like I've cemented as like, that's never going to change.
Yeah.
So now I've got foundational bedrock. I've got bedrock truths that I'm building on. And then I've got truths that I'm currently testing out / like, like they work until they don't.
Yeah.
And so there's a bedrock of objective truth. And then there's a bit of this. And then there's like, all this like maybes. But a lot of people live on this, they don't even know. They got no idea. They're just living off this has worked in the past, so it's going to work in the future kind of idea. But that's not how life works.
Yeah.
Life isn't this full circle constant movement. Life is constantly throwing something different at you all the time. And so most people don't have this bedrock, like, this usually always works. There is, like, people have this, like, that's why millionaires exist. They got this, like, they found a science to making money, a formula, like, it works.
Yeah.
Anyone can take it and do it, kind of thing. But there's a lot of, side, like, things you need to understand that you personally need to understand is your truths, that God and Jesus and Christ can give you to be able to battle for yourself, because the issues you have are not the same issues you have. There may be some similarities, but things that we need to come to understand as individuals in order to truly walk as a path as per our purpose. So I can't tell you what you need to learn specifically. Like, God can bring you to that and find your specific truth on what you need to learn. But we all have an individual, all have an objective truth we're supposed to be cemented in. Yeah. So there is an objective truth and an individual truth. Yeah. I do believe in that. And I do believe that has an actual real purpose, and that's not falsely wrong to believe in either.
Yeah. It gives you, I see where you're coming from. It, like, that fundamental objective truth gives you the bedrock, as in that structure. It's the thing, it's the glue, it's the unity. It brings us all together, and, like, this is the truth. We all agree that being good to each other is the fundamental, like, objective. Yes.
Great. We all technically already have that. It's just everyone has a different way of going about it.
Absolutely.
Right. And so I don't think there's no such thing as, like, if the world was all perfectly unified, I don't think we would have reality. Reality wouldn't be reality. It'd just be all perfect all the time. Yeah. Therefore, reality just wouldn't be what we know it, and there would be no good and evil, and we wouldn't know there's good. It would just be all plateauic. At that point, we'd be robots. Like we wouldn't have opinions.
Like a hive mind.
Yeah, exactly, like a hive mind. We wouldn't have a free will. We wouldn't have our own opinions, and we can't have these. So anyway,
do you think that that's funny to say this? Do you think God? That's what God's trying to do, as in, like, obviously He creates an objective truth for people to act a certain way. Yeah. And obviously, like, God is the top. God is the leader. Like, as in, like, your teacher. Whatever you want to call him, the top.
Master. Yeah.
And then we have everything that we have God's people, God's child. Yeah. Right. Would you sort of say He's doing the exact same thing, creating a hive mind?
I thought about this.
Yeah.
So I thought, it's like, is His purpose literally just to
because the idea is, like, we have to worship Him as well. Even I wrestle with the idea is, like, God, this all powerful being. Why would He need my worship?
Yeah, sounds egotistical in an idea, right? Yeah. The point of worship. God, we're covering so many topics on this, but all right, let's do it. I literally just really had a.
This ain't no fucking shallow level shit. It's awful.
I just can't. Can I? Or we can't. So I had this literally full deeper understanding about what this really is, like, a week ago on my honeymoon, and it was essentially like worshiping God is actually a part in the denial of self. So worship isn't this, like, just get on your knees and praise God. That's not just what it is. Worship is a lifestyle. Worship is how we live our life. We all worship something. So what I'm saying is, like, worshipping is what you put above all else. That's all worship is. It's idolization. Worship is, like, some people may worship money. Money is the thing that they focus on, they give the most time and energy to. So whatever you give the most time and energy to is what you ultimately worship. That may be fame, that may be money, that may be, like, sex, that may be, whatever it is, right? And so if that's the case, that we worship things even if it's not God, so you guys would even worship something in your life, it's just everyone does, then to worship God is to worship that which gives purpose, meaning, that is good, that has, all of that, so, and is all-knowing and all good, and has all these combinations of things. So you actually inhabit and actually, embody that. So whatever you worship, you embody, and you actually take on and become part of what you worship. So if you worshiping God, the point of worshiping God is to bring upon good on the earth, and we can't do that ourselves. Is the whole point. We're imperfect. We miss. We sin. We mess up, and all this kind of stuff. But God never messes up.
It's a whole idea of like God leads to life in a way.
Yeah.
And then like, I guess the detachment of God leads to that decay, that death.
Yeah.
In a sense, the destruction of like society, decay of morals, decay of like order in that way too. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all subjective. That all comes from a subjective like understanding of what we think we need to do, not what we were originally made to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's worship right there, and it's not this, like I said, it's not this whole getting on your knees. It's a lifestyle. It's a it's a heart posture. We don't just worship. It's not just our actions and what we say we do. It's our heart posture that leads to our actions and what we say.
What's a heart posture for those who don't know?
Yeah, heart posture is just a knowing that I do wrong. And just this is an example, knowing I do wrong and I want to do right.
Yeah.
I submit that I know I do wrong, even when I may think I'm doing right and I'm still doing wrong. Like you may think you've done the right thing by someone, but you've actually done the wrong thing and you don't even know. You do that shit every day, bro.
Yeah.
Everyone does that almost every day. Even most Christians do. Look, just to put in here real quick, I'm not saying Christians are perfect. I'm not saying we've got it all figured out.
Yeah, they're Nazis.
Yeah, like, hey man,
I'm joking.
Hey man, like
don't kill me, Christians.
There's a fine line between becoming a Nazi and becoming a Christian. There is to some degree, but man, you go read the New Testament, you go read what Christ said, and you come back to me and tell me that that's anything close to what anything anyone has done in Christianity in the name of God is bad. You just can't. It's so. If
you actually apply it, like realistically, because you have a lot of people who just say they are Christians, even people who say they're Muslims as well, and they literally do heinous acts as well. Yeah.
And it's also to say that, look, this is when you become a Christian, it's a process. You don't just become a Christian. In a sense, Christian just means little Christ. It means to be a follower of Christ. It just means to follow His way.
Yeah.
You'll mess up. We're gonna mess up. I mess up still all the time, but that's the whole point. And it's to hand over your mess ups and to realign yourself. It's again, you're sinning. You sin. You missed the mark. You missed what you're supposed to do. Therefore, sorry God, I want to realign with what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I've done wrong. I recognize that. I hand that wrong over to you. I ask for forgiveness. I'm sorry. I want to do this correctly. Show me.
Yeah.
And you do that with a heart posture of genuineness, you will be realigned eventually.
What would your argument be, for example? Let's just say Stalin or Hitler, for example.
Yeah.
They did their acts on Earth, obviously genocide on a mass level.
Stalin was an atheist.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. But let's just take for the example someone deciding I'm going to kill millions of people in the name of God.
Yeah. But my argument is like this. Let's just say they realize they've done wrong.
Yeah.
Let's just say someone...
Right.
Let's just say they repented and they've been like...
Man.
And they've been like, hey...
Bro, you're taking up every single one of the like hardest and deepest questions about all of this shit, like in the first episode, but keep going. Keep going.
You have to go deep.
Oh, why not? It's going to be an interesting episode. People might catch on to it. Go on.
Because my idea, it's like, I'm approaching this from like a general point of view. I'm not even approaching it from like a Christian point of view. But I'm saying like, let's just say, for example, a figure like Hitler or Stalin, for example, had that idea of like genocide.
Yeah. And
then somewhere in their mind, they were realizing, shit, I've done wrong.
Yeah.
And they fully repented and they said, forgive me. I know I've done wrong. I accept the punishment.
Yeah.
What do you think God does then? Would He still show mercy to that?
I'm going to give two sides to this coin.
Yeah.
Okay. This is, again, I'm not a scholar or anything like this, but this is what I've come to understand through a lot of thought and a lot of listening. One is, the short answer is yes. Okay, the short answer is yes, and I'll tell you
He showed forgiveness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That he can be forgiven and still, quote unquote, go to heaven. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being is there's two things you can point to. One is that God says all sin is equal.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and this gets messed up. This is so hard to digest and took me forever to understand and actually really understand.
Yeah, go
that what Joseph Stalin has done per oh man, this is gonna be. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to just say it how it is. What Joseph Stalin had done.
We're not sponsored, so this isn't like you have no fucking limitations whatsoever.
All that evil someone has done, whether it's rape, murder, kill babies, done whatever it is. If and I say if because how hard would it be to turn back to God after doing that? I think you lose your humanity and sanity after doing that.
Yeah.
I don't think that they could, even if they tried. I think they couldn't really do it because in a way that it's not as simple as just, I mean, it can be. If you really do turn a full heart posture, let's say it is hard to do that, bro. I did nothing seriously bad in my life. Like nothing really serious, right? And even for me, it took me a while to actually accept forgiveness and to actually turn back to Christ.
Yeah.
It actually was that hard just for me, let alone someone that's done that much evil. I don't think he could really do it. But let's say he did, hypothetically.
Let's just say he didn't. Let's just say he was biblically illiterate. He didn't know anything about... let's say, for example, like his home upbringing was all pain, suffering, superiority. And
then he found the true message of God later on.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So let's just say hypothetically he turns back to God.
Or he found God. Like he reads the Bible and he's like,
turns
oh my God, I've done
okay. Oh, yeah, shit. I've done all this wrong.
Yeah.
Just reading the Bible and he's just like, do not commit it. Shit.
It's like Hitler reads the Bible. Oh shit. It's like,
the first one, don't commit murder. Like, closes the book like, I can't read that shit then. I'm stuffed.
Yeah, imagine that.
But no. So let's say hypothetically he did two parts of the coin. One is that all sin is equal. The person that commit murder is as equally judged in the eyes of God as the person that lied.
Yeah.
Let that sit for a second. That took me forever to...
that hits me because it's the saying with like Jesus and the woman who committed adultery.
Yeah.
It's like, I love what he does because he doesn't like actually contradict the law of Moses. It's almost, it's like he's actually like agreeing with it, yet somewhat testing it. Like it's like subverting it, but not subverting it at the same time.
Yeah.
It's saying like, yeah, you can cast a stone at her, but he who is without sin cast the first stone. And it's like, what you're relating to.
Yeah. So just to clarify for people that don't know the story, there's a woman who was a prostitute, and I think her name is Mary in the game. But they're all like pointing at her, saying you are, foul, you're this, you're that, calling her names and chucking whatever at her. And he comes across and says, who is without sin cast the first stone, and all of us are guilty. So who are we to point the finger? Who are we to blame other people? Though we also do wrong.
Yeah.
And it's also to say that her sin is no different from your sin.
Yeah.
Your anger is no different from her mistakes. Her mistakes is no different from your anger.
Yeah.
And that levels you hard. Like if you really think about that for a sec, let that digest for like a couple days, a couple weeks, maybe a year.
I love it because it puts you in your place as well.
Bro, like you see everyone differently. You see everyone differently. You see yourself differently. You see yourself in a better light because you don't compare yourself to anyone anymore.
I was going to say that. It's like you see yourself differently in the eyes that everything is equal. Like you're equal to another person.
Yes.
Like my value is not linked to how much money I made or the wrongs I've done.
Exactly.
I've done
identity becomes no more linked and correlated to that of the world. It comes correlated to what God tells you are and who we are. So again, coming back to purpose, God's purpose and who we are, the meaning of who we are is also, again, identity plays into that. So your identity of who we are is then able to serve the purpose. So if we lose our identity of who we're supposed to be, we lose our purpose.
But isn't your argument like you want to deny the soul as well?
Yeah, because that soul...
The soul's our identity.
The soul's trying to create a subjective understanding of identity and purpose.
So we still need the soul, but we can't follow the soul's desires.
Exactly.
I see.
Yeah, we have a soul because we're all individual. Therefore, we're not hive mind. We're not all the same. Yep. So that's for the soul. That's the personality, the special things about us that make us different. But then that's also part in, what we're purposed for. But when we create our own ideas and expectations and goals that aren't aligned with our true purpose.
Okay, I want to ask this as well.
And the identity also gets tarnished through our life, and our identity is no longer that of which God created us to be, being mean to people. Like, where maybe our identity is placed in money, and then therefore we embody money, which is power and greed. And then therefore we embody the power and greed and walk forth as an identity of power and greed.
Yeah.
And therefore our identity now is power and greed. Now our purpose is power and greed. And then you're stuffed.
Yeah, but like the idea,
death,
sin, that's okay. It's interesting because you talk about your identity. It's like you talk about the identity is God's purpose. Is
that part in that? Yeah. Like if you draw your purpose, if you draw your identity from God's purpose for you, you'll find your true identity.
I see.
You'll find who you are.
Yeah.
Through your relationship with God, you will find who you are. You'll get to know yourself through God. Because as you get to know God, you are made in the image of God. So this is this whole idea of why people think they're gods and stuff.
Yeah. Or Christ consciousness.
Yeah, Christ consciousness. You are not God. You are part of God. And therefore a reflection, you are a reflection. Like Christ, Jesus Christ, was the example for us to live, right? He lived perfectly, never sinned, never messed up, and still got crucified for sin, which is why he pays that debt, because he died for our sin, because he never sinned. So he took the world's sin on. But he's a reflection of God. We are supposed to follow in Christ as the example. Therefore, Christ is the reflection of God as the identity of God, who we are supposed to be.
Yeah, right.
So we're supposed to be Christ to some extent. We'll never be God, so we have to humble ourselves as Christ humbled himself to God and served us. He didn't come to be served, he came to serve. So we need to be as Christ served.
Okay.
Even he was God, but he became.
And why does that idea? So we want to be like Christ.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the identity.
That's the identity.
Yeah.
So how does that differ from someone who wants to have Christ consciousness? Like where does that distinction play in? Is it that ego of like, I am Christ type of thing come in? Is that for you?
Yeah. It's this idea that we can become like Christ.
Yeah.
That we can become. Is it that we can become Christ? I don't really I'll be honest, I don't really fully understand their perspective entirely, other than that they believe that they are God to some extent.
Yeah. That
we are all gods and we are all part in the consciousness of God.
Yeah.
And I think that the reason why that's so touchy is because you think you're Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's like you take that idea.
You think you're Christ.
Because your biggest, I guess, like worry with it is like you take your ego into Christ. Yeah. As in, like, you say yourself you're the Messiah.
Yeah,
then you adopt that God complex and you have that superiority.
But there's also this other thing that God, like Christ, calls us to be perfect, as our Heavenly Father is perfect. He says to us that we will be able to do greater miracles than He.
Yeah. Like, so
there's this weird ground of like...
that was the verse that actually confused me. I was like, why does he say that?
Yeah.
You know
so,
what I mean?
and that rattled me a little bit, like wow, like really? And so it's this realization that like we can't do it. Okay, so this is the difference. We can't do it. We have to call on the Holy Spirit and God to do it in for us. We call God into the situations to do it. We can't just walk around saying that we are God and have the authority of God. We have to constantly be humbled to God to have to utilize his power for good.
Mm.
And in the way that, like, we have spiritual gifts that we are given and we could use that for good and evil, but this is the whole idea of constantly denying and killing self in order to do what God wills for ultimately the ultimate purpose of our life and ultimate good, but also to use the most power, to have God's power actually be used.
Yeah.
And so, that's the whole thing between, like, you know, self-conscious, like Christ consciousness, I guess, to some degree. It's a very grey line. There's a lot of, like, overlaps. There's so many overlaps within that. Like, they do believe Christ is the Messiah and God, you know, that he also did us. So I think that they don't believe that Christ was sent by God, though. I don't think they believe that. But anyway, this is I don't want to go into that because that's a whole freaking another rabbit hole that you don't need to know.
That could be for episode 2.
Yeah, maybe another episode somewhere in the future when I actually understand more. But yeah.
I'm so confused. Is this episode 1?
This is episode 1. I think we could finish it up here on the
Cheers, man.
Cheers to that.
Well, guys, we're going to leave it at a part 3, part 2. This is the most spontaneous thing I think we've both ever done, but he was called to it. I kind of wanted to do it for a long time, but it's just a little taste of what's to come. Yep. And I'll let Jake take the reins on this one. He'll bring on other guests and stuff like that.
Yep.
Is that what you're gonna
and some just on my own thoughts on my own.
Yep.
And from what I receive, I guess. But if you guys have any questions, if you got this far, thank you. And please let me know what you think. Write me, text me, and also ask me any questions of what you get from this podcast as well, and also any questions you have for future podcasts. So let me know. But this has been Jake Hawkes and Toby Salenja, and you have just listened to the Meaning and Purpose podcast. See you on the next episode.
That was like great, dude. Cheers.
Do it for the love, for the hate, for the sons and the faith, for the drums and the baseless break. Something to make for the ones in the basement, chasing the one that's great.